Welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. Look at this. Look at this. The question is, how low will oil prices go? Because right now, they are in free fall. U.S. oil drops below $2 per barrel as demand disappears. Now, should I buy Bitcoin or should I buy oil futures? That's the question on a lot of people's mind right now. One Bitcoin buys you 600 barrels of crude oil. And just generally speaking, what I want to talk about in today's video is what it means to be an investor amid a global pandemic. Many people have money that they still, cash on the sidelines. They're looking to get a piece of this fear and uncertainty in the market right now. So we'll talk about that. Once again, guys, welcome back to Altcoin Daily, where we go over daily news, opinion, market analysis on everything going on in the space today. If you appreciate our daily videos coming at you, even though, the sentiment of the market is pretty low, if you appreciate us coming at you every single day of the week, hit the like button, support the channel, and let's talk about this. So oil, less than $2 a barrel. This is a very recent article. How low will oil prices go? A key American oil benchmark, West Texas Intermediate oil, fell more than 80% today as global oil markets continue to grapple with a pandemic-driven collapse in demand. So at the start of 2020, a barrel of this same oil cost around $60 per barrel. Shortly after 1:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, that same barrel of oil was trading for less than $2, the lowest price the WTI futures market has ever seen. The plummeting price of WTI is driven by a trading contract deadline. Oil traders have until Tuesday to sell off the current futures contract. Other types of crude, without a deadline coming up that quickly, have not dropped so sharply. But in general, crude oil prices are very low and continue to fall, and nobody thought that we'd be seeing something like this in 2020. Nobody thought that. Oil-producing countries and companies are trying to reduce their output, but they can't keep pace with the extremely rapid drop in global demand as the world economy hits the brakes. That's creating a massive oversupply of oil and raising concerns about where buyers will be able to physically store it all. So right now for oil companies, it's still cheaper just to keep producing this oil that nobody's buying rather than have them turn off their oil machines. I like what Preston Pish said. He said oil manufacturers could surely use a difficulty adjustment right now. If that comment makes no sense, you might want to read up on Bitcoin. And I liked this, and I want to share this on my Twitter. And that's the next logical question, right? So Bitcoin, which has retained its price just around 7,000 pretty well in the last few days, one Bitcoin now buys 600 barrels of crude oil. Or as this article also points out, one ETH equals 15 barrels of crude oil. But let's talk about this, just generally speaking, what it means to be an investor amid the global pandemic. So you can win as an investor during the pandemic, but there's one thing you should not do: panic. So I really liked basically the point of view and the sentiment that this author brought up in this article. You'll see what I mean. Investors are no strangers to extreme situations. History's Great Depression is one of the best examples of this. However, the COVID-19 pandemic presents a new type of extreme situation, and the questions racing through nearly every investor's mind is, can this pandemic offer opportunities despite all the difficulties it presents? As an investor, I believe the answer is a resounding yes. Extreme situations always provide incredible opportunities for investors. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that it doesn't matter what type of asset you're looking to invest in. The greatest opportunities always come when times are hard. That is, if you have the ability to stay focused. You cannot fall into the fear trap that leads most people to make poor money decisions. Let's talk about Bitcoin, a lesson from Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin for an example. Prior to the pandemic in mid-2019, the price of Bitcoin had surged past $13,800. By March 20th, however, the cryptocurrency had plummeted down to around 3,850. But Bitcoin has seen these types of tumbles and recoveries before. Back in December of 2017, Bitcoin was valued at around $20,000. 1 year later, it had crashed just over 3,100. People who took advantage of the drop and bought Bitcoin at the low enjoyed watching their investment not double, not triple, but quadruple at that time. And let me just show you something. This is the week chart. If we go to that time period he's talking about when Bitcoin dropped from 20,000, when Bitcoin was trading just above 3,100. I remember we were still making long-term bullish videos on Bitcoin right around here. Every time I said Bitcoin is a good long-term investment, in my opinion, I would get bombarded with comments of people saying, I can't believe you're telling people to buy Bitcoin right here. It's going to go lower. It's going to go lower. And it could have gone lower. But the fact is, if we're aiming for something long-term and we're thinking we have a longer time preference, as he pointed out, you could have close to quadrupled your investment. Today, we are seeing again Bitcoin recover from a crash to the 3,000s. This is because the drop was again only based on paranoia. It is the same paranoia that sent countless other investments crashing. As people get control of their fear, they start trusting Bitcoin again. And we've seen the currency rally lately. So he's pointing out that after this crash again from 3,800, after this, 1, 2, 3, 4 solid weeks in a row in the green. And of course, we just began this current week right here, which is in the red. This idea of getting into investments when prices have plummeted, what advisors and seasoned investors called contrarian investing, this isn't new. Renowned investor Nathan Rothschild snapped up opportunities after the Battle of Waterloo, when everybody else was panicking, famously saying, the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. Is that today? He's not alone. Many other successful people from the past understood how amazing opportunities can be found within an environment as extreme as COVID-19. For more contemporary examples, just look to Warren Buffett, Kevin O'Leary, Ray Dalio. They're just some of the famous business leaders who insist on keeping control over their fears when markets experience panic, whether it's due to global illness or a different kind of crisis. Their consistent recommendation is to play the long game and resist the urge to sell off. And if you pick investments to purchase in a down market, that have an overall upwards trend over the years or decades, you can make some serious gains. Given what former and current investors have done, when times are tough, opportunities like Bitcoin can be found throughout the COVID-19 crisis, and they're very appealing. The sentiment applies to all potential investments and not just cryptocurrencies. However, digital options might win over traditional investments, but be patient. So you can read the rest of this article yourself if you choose. It is from Michael Gastar, entrepreneur, venture capitalist, and philanthropist, and the CEO of Black Banks Group. And I like the sentiment, when there's blood in the streets, if an asset is trending up, in the bigger picture, for instance, Bitcoin, if an asset is trending up in the bigger picture and you as a savvy investor I think there's going to be even more demand for this in the future, then if it's trending up, you might want to buy when there's blood in the street. And you can see, right here, nobody wanted to buy. Went up for 4 weeks. I remember all in this period, and even going up here, nobody wanted to buy. It's just when the sentiment is very negative, a lot of level-headed people make a purchase. So the question is are people purchasing oil at these prices? Is this, have we seen the worst for the COVID-19 pandemic? And I personally don't know. I'm not buying oil futures. I'm buying Bitcoin. And actually, take a look at this. A lot of people are buying Bitcoin. I've been telling you, I always tell you when we see hard data indicating either whales or regular people are buying. In this case today, we do have some evidence that U.S. citizens are splashing some of their stimulus cash into cryptocurrency. Check this out. Nothing screams confidence in U.S. economy more than swapping Federal Reserve issued money for a digital hedge against the mainstream financial system. The U.S. government issued more than 80 million stimulus checks, each for $1,200 last week, to be deposited directly into bank accounts. The payment is intended to give citizens affected by corona a few extra dollars to pay for essentials, things such as food and utility bills. But it appears some proportion of Americans, instead of spending their stimulus checks at Walmart or Amazon or wherever, may have decided to swap their dollar for crypto. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong tweeted earlier on Friday his exchange, Coinbase, had experienced a sudden spike in number of buys and deposits worth $1,200 up until mid-April. It was around 0.1% of total buys and deposits for $1,200. And then suddenly it spiked to nearly 0.4% this week, around the time many Americans started receiving their stimulus checks. Look at this. Hey, by the way, guys, I'm super bullish on this. Did you see this? Did you see this tweet? Check this out. Online charity poker tournament this Thursday, April 23rd. $100 buy-ins, 50% goes to charity, 50% final table. Poker stars, yes to US people. Sign up and all the details here. This is something we played in last time. We're going to be playing again. It is simply a poker tournament for charity where you could win money if you get to the final table. Austin and I will be playing in this. I know several other big crypto people are playing in this. And if you wanted to do that, check that out.